Hey everyone, welcome to U.S. History 2, 2112. I'm Michael Kenlon, I'll be your instructor this semester. I wanted to provide this video as a way of looking a little bit more closely at our syllabus because we have so little time when we meet on Thursdays. If you're trying to get in touch with me, let's use D2L. That's probably the easiest way. That way I don't have to go back and forth between email and D2L. I also don't have an office because I'm not a full-time faculty member. So I will typically be in our room, 108, 6 to 6:30, waiting. If you need another time, just send me an email and we'll set up another time that works best for you. What we are covering is the end of the Civil War to somewhere close to the present, probably the 80s or the 90s. They divide American history in half, and the Civil War is kind of the canyon in the middle. What we're going to look at closely is themes that develop over this period of time, especially the evidence that we use in primary and secondary sources that help us analyze these time periods. We'll look at some of your writing, probably developing your writing based on an argument and the evidence that you present with that argument. And then we'll look at other writing as well. Our text is going to be American Narrative History. They do have an ebook, or you can get a book online like Amazon would offer. The issue is you absolutely must purchase the access to the online component for the quiz because we are going to have quizzes. The good news about the quizzes is that you can make 100 on every quiz. You just have to keep answering questions. As long as you can keep answering questions correctly, you can get 100. So that purchase allows you to have a better grade. All of the assignments that I post, because we're a hybrid class, I'm going to post those online for you. And I'll usually, especially in bigger assignments, I'll give you 2 weeks to have a look at it. So we'll have several times where you can come into class and ask questions in a physical setting. Everything else, we're going to have a weekly assignment, and of course we'll have a weekly quiz. Those will be posted online. Let's make sure that your computer works, your internet works. If you have any questions, you can talk with the folks at tech support. Let's look a little closer at what's required of the course. So here's what makes up what we're going to do. So every week we'll have a reaction. We'll spend more time in class working on these, but I'll give you a document to read, and then you're going to analyze that document, and then you'll have some questions to answer in response to it. We will turn one of those in every single week, and I'll show you in another video the rubric that we've provided, and we'll go over these so you understand exactly what's expected here. Every week we'll also have a quiz. This quiz will be due just like the reaction. It will be due before you get into class. You have a full week to do both of these assignments. And again, the good news about the quiz is you can make 100 on every one as long as you continue to answer questions correctly. We'll have 2 papers, one before the midterm and one after the midterm. These will be based on topics that we're covering, but there'll be a blend of sort of current events and then also historical content. They'll be announced probably 2 classes prior, and then we'll talk about them during class. Make sure you understand the length and everything. I'll post this online for you, and then you can go through them and ask me any questions. We'll have 1 exam. That'll be the midterm. It's essentially what's called an ID exam, wherein I'm going to give you a list of phrases, names, etc. beforehand, maybe 2 weeks beforehand, and then you will come in the test day, the exam day. I'll show you a limited number of those, and then you'll choose an even limited number of those. For instance, I'll give you 20 terms 2 weeks before. When you come in, I'll show you 12, and then you'll choose 6, and you'll write a paragraph on each one. And I'll explain this more as we go throughout. The key here is they call this an identification exam. And I'll give you links to places where you can look up more information on how to complete those. Your final is going to combine some research you do on a topic of your choice, but we're also going to bring in misinformation, sort of the new moniker of fake news, to understand how information is created and how it affects the past and the present. When we're doing research for these projects, please Don't use any of your standard, I type it into Google and I get my first results. Since we're in college, we would expect you to be doing much deeper research than that. A quick guide that I offer is usually .coms or commercial. They're trying to sell you something, so they're not great sites for research. If you're looking for something academic, .edu is typically a college. Sometimes it's a student who's doing their master's or something like that. .gov, we know it's the government. They usually get their facts right, but something we have to remember about government sites is they tend to be biased. They tend to have bias towards government, right? But their information tends to be a lot clearer and a lot less convoluted than .com sites, right? Here's how we break down all of the assignments. I make the weekly work worth about 25%. Then your papers together will average the two papers together, 25%, midterm 25%, final 25%. So I tried to weight everything generally equally. Weekly, papers, midterm, final. Now comes the fun stuff. So makeup work. I don't take makeup work. I understand that we all have lives. I have a life too, and I understand there are emergencies. The way I deal with that is I just ask for documentation of the emergency. If it comes to, I had to work and I didn't know it, that's not really emergency. Other things that are a little bit more dire, I can understand. I deal with that on a personal basis, but please do not come to me after the fact, not show up the midterm and then ask me if you can take it late, not turn the paper in and ask me if you can turn it in late. That's just not going to work, all right? Please come to class. I do not take attendance, but the less you are there, the more I notice and the less likely I am to be able to help you, right? So you should attend class. This syllabus can change. I have the right to do it. I don't want to do it. What I will typically do is if I change it, I'll move things backwards. By that, I mean I'll push assignments back. I'm not going to move assignments forward to make it harder on you. Everything in terms of evaluations is done online and they're anonymous. Always remember that, so you can say whatever you feel like. The college has a number of policies. Probably the one that fits us the most, because we do so much writing and history, is going to be honesty. So in terms of writing things and turning things in that are yours, we have to deal with plagiarism. Most of the time, plagiarism is accidental. It's people not citing sources properly or just being kind of slack about it. We have to take it very seriously because people's original writing is actually their property. And if you turn it in and it's not yours, that's considered stealing. So if it happens, I'll let you know, but I also take it very seriously. And on an escalating scale, the consequences get more and more dire, right? And if it gets bad enough, then I have to go to administration with it. I've provided you an example of a really good site that should help you look at types of plagiarism. If you have questions as to whether or not something is being cited or how you can cite things, usually it's, did you include quotation marks or did you literally cite the source that you used? Please come to me if you have those kinds of questions. When we're in class, we'll be discussing things. Sometimes they'll be controversial. That's fine. I try to act as the referee. You are free to speak your mind. I will try to stay in the middle. Along those lines, electronic devices, we all have these wonderful computers in our pockets. If it's distracting me, then it's probably distracting other students, and then we'll have an issue. Otherwise, it is your business. You are here as a student. You can withdraw. You'll know when the drop dates are happening. They're happening this week. If you have disabilities, the university is accommodating. You can just contact these numbers for support. Please don't smoke. Please don't dip. Please don't bring vape pens or any other similar item with you to class or use it in class. Please don't bring your children to class. Please don't bring a weapon to class. If you are trying to record or film while you're in class, you need to bring me the device so I can approve it. And of course, just because I would approve you recording a lecture doesn't mean that you have the freedom to post it publicly, right? We all have privacy issues. Your last page, that's going to explain what we will be doing every class, which chapters we will be covering, and when your papers and larger assignments are due. For instance, next time we're covering our first chapter, which deals with the period after the Civil War, Reconstruction. So we're reading chapter 6. So your quiz will be over chapter 6. And then I'm going to post a reading that you're going to do and turn in as your weekly assignment for chapter 16. 16, not 6, excuse me. You'll see down in September, our first paper is due. You'll see that our midterm is in October. Our second paper is due in November. And then we will have our final due in the beginning of December. We are not going to meet to have a final. You'll be happy to know that's going to be a project that you turn in, where essentially you can email it to me. You may notice that I have a workshop down here. I have to speak at a conference this day in Athens. I'm not able to be here, so I will have work that will help you prepare for the midterm, and we'll do that online. I hope this is a better description, and you can refer back to this if you have questions. I'll also point you towards another video I'm going to post that's going to break down how we can get our weekly assignments done.